There is no shortage of Star Wars games. Classics such as Knights of the Old Republic or the old Battlefront games are beloved by many, and the franchise is still seeing new entries with games like Outlaws or the upcoming Zero Company. However, with a franchise as big as Star Wars, there's bound to be projects that get left behind in pursuit of the ones that did get released. One of those projects could have been a game that fans would have loved, a game centered around a young Boba Fett in the crime-ridden underground of one of the series' biggest locations. Of course, I'm talking about Star Wars 1313. But what went wrong? Why did a game with a premise that focused on one of the most iconic characters in the franchise get dropped in favor of other projects? We'll find the answers in this episode of Game Graveyard. Today we're talking about Star Wars 1313. So what exactly was Star Wars 1313 supposed to be? Star Wars 1313 was going to be a third-person action-adventure game centered around a young Boba Fett, as he uncovers a criminal conspiracy in the city of Coruscant, one of the most prominent locations in the Star Wars universe. Coruscant is divided into different vertical levels, with level 1313 being notable in the Star Wars canon as a central hub for crime within the city. Aside from that, there's not a whole lot known about the story, just the main premise. What we do know about the story is its tone. 1313 was intended to have a mature rating from the ESRB. According to Wikipedia, two devs stated that the mature rating wouldn't be because of excessive gore, nudity, and shock value, but because of the game's adult themes required for its story. Rather than focusing on force powers or lightsaber combat like previous games had done, Star Wars 1313 would have had the player utilize numerous different blasters and tools used by bounty hunters in the Star Wars universe. The gameplay was originally inspired by Grand Theft Auto, but due to its complexity, this was stripped back and the game was reworked into something more akin to Gears of War. It would have run on Unreal Engine 3 with George Lucas himself having a direct hand in the making of the game, alongside the staff of LucasArts, ILM, Lucasfilm Animation, and Skywalker Sound. At E3 2012, the game was formally shown off. A cinematic trailer displayed the aforementioned Gears of War style gameplay and illustrated the game's main premise. Hype was building amongst the fanbase, with people saying that this could be the greatest Star Wars game ever released. Things were looking good for Star Wars 1313, but in 2013, that changed. By 2013, the game was abruptly quote-unquote put on hold. But why is that? What happened?
Need a new form of entertainment in your life? Join the thousands of others who have hit the subscribe button. Side effects of subscribing may include joy, laughter, and newfound knowledge about video games. Talk to your doctor about if subscribing is right for you.
Be sure to catch Internet Mysteries weekdays on RatedEm.
In 2013, Star Wars 1313 was announced to be put on hold. Not outright cancelled, but on hiatus. This is due to the acquisition of Lucasfilm and its properties by Disney. The deal required a lot from both companies, so all production on Lucasfilm projects was halted until the deal was done. While many projects continued after the acquisition, some didn't, including 1313. 1313's development was cancelled due to the LucasArts staff being laid off, aside from 10 employees. That is nowhere near enough to develop a large-scale action-adventure game on Unreal Engine 3. LucasArts was turned from an in-house development studio to a licensor, and that's why companies like EA and Ubisoft get to develop Star Wars games now. Despite the hype from the community, 1313 wasn't sold to any other companies to continue development. Disney and Lucasfilm decided to just leave it in the dust entirely. It's unfortunate to see 1313 die out in this way, but newer Star Wars games seem to fill the gap that it left. The two Jedi games are held in very high regard by the community, and although it had a rocky start, EA's Battlefront 2 is more popular now than ever.